Hello and what's up, RBY Pokemon Challenges fam? How you guys doing? We are back with another minimum battles run where we're gonna have to skip Brock. We've just done 3 runs where I kind of showed how the Brock skip would allow some of the strongest Pokemon in the game to actually complete a minimum battles challenge. But we also need to note that there are an awful lot of Pokemon that are weaker that still theoretically could complete minimum battles as long as they could get through Brock, and I think Parasect is an excellent example of that. Now in terms of base stats, it's nothing to look at. We've got a 345 base stat total, 95 attack, 80 defense, 80 special, 30 speed, 60 in HP, a measly 5.86% critical hit chance, and we're in the medium fast level up group. But the reason I think that this Pokemon could be good is because the bug grass typing actually isn't that bad except for fire types, but the only time we're really going to have to deal with that is going to be with our rival and of course when we get to Blaine at the end. But if we look at our moveset, we actually have an awful lot of good things to look at. We're going to already start the game with Stun Spore and Leech Life, so we've got a same type move even though it's very weak, and we've got a status move. But via level up, we're going to get access to Spore, we're going to get Slash, we're going to get Growth, and then you can see TM3 Swords Dance. So we can even go Swords Dance strats here. So we could end up doing double badge boosts with Spore in one attacking move. It could turn out to be pretty broken. And we learn all of the TMs that you would expect a grass type Pokemon to learn, but we also learn Dig, funny enough. So we can use that move in order to get through the fire types as long as we can set up with some Swords Dances. I actually think this Pokemon has a lot of potential. Still, with that being said, we're going to have to see how this actually works in practice. Is it just a theoretical exercise, or is Parasect actually a minimum battles champ once it gets past Brock? Let's find out. So as usual, I'm going to be running on 0 DVs. So as usual, we are running in Pokemon Red and Blue here. We're going to have our Gen 2 color mod on just so that we can enjoy that, GSC Pokemon Challenges also exist. You can go check them out over there. But for now, let's go ahead and try to beat the game with Parasect, a Pokemon that I always really liked. Its real disadvantage is that it's just super slow. But with the badge boost, we might just be able to do something about that. So here we'll pick Parasect in the good old Bulbasaur ball so that our rival is going to pick up Charmander. That will give us a big disadvantage in the late game, but again, maybe with badge boosts we can make this work. So we're going to lead off first in the rival 1 fight by just spamming Scratch. We're going to do significantly more damage than him. He's like growling at us because he knows he's not going to deal enough damage, and we easily win on the first attempt. But with that being done, we now have to make our way through this next section of the game where usually this Pokemon really struggles because we have to go up against Brock, and while Leech Life is a same type move, it's probably not enough to be able to get through Brock given the fact that it's so weak. On the other hand, we're going to be going in at level 6, so Brock's Geodude is going to be 6 levels higher than us in this version, and that means that when it tackles us, it's going to do serious damage. Still, we'll test it out a couple times here in Pokemon Red and Blue, just to see. Maybe there's a chance that we get through if he just uses enough Defense Curls. I'm not sure. I don't think we have enough Leech Lives to really make it through that Geodude if he does Defense Curl though. But here at the end of Viridian Forest, we will fight this Weedle, and keep in mind, in Gen 1, Leech Life as a bug type move is super effective against poison. So even though his Poison Sting did a lot of damage and got us down to 1 HP, it was just a 3-hitter to knock him out with our Leech Life. We managed to get it to go on the first attempt. So not a consistent fight against the bug catcher there, since we are 4 times weak to poison, but we did manage to get it to go. So now let's get into Brock's gym. Let's just see how he goes on this first attempt. So here against Brock's Geodude, we're going to go ahead and try Leech Life, and we did 2 damage with that move. We only have 15 PP, and we can see he did 8 damage to us with a tackle, so we would need an awful lot of Defense Curls from him in order to get through this one. But of course, Defense Curl also raises his defense, causing our Leech Life to do less and less damage. So this one is basically impossible. He'd have to use Defense Curl over and over and over again for a ridiculous number of turns, and it's just not going to happen. So instead of continuing with that, how about we come over here and try to fight these trainers in order and just see if we can manage to get through this next section and gain some additional levels. So here against this bug catcher, we're obviously not going to do great damage because we're quite under leveled, but fortunately when it uses a move like String Shot, it really doesn't matter because we're already slower. We level up to level 7 there. Now I'm going to go into Leech Life on the Weedle. This is going to be a 3-hit KO. We're just hoping not to take too many poison stings. We get a second poison sting there, unfortunately, but I do think this is a winnable fight. So it took quite a few attempts, but we did manage to get one where the Weedle did not use Poison Sting on us. And now I'm just going to paralyze this last Caterpie. I'm going to spam my Leech Lives here. I just want to get as much health back as possible. And just like that, 5 attempts, but we do get through that bug catcher. And now the advantage that we have is that once we do get through this Rattata, we're going to have a super effective move against the Ekans. So we're just hoping that we can actually get through this Pokemon. Paralysis might be the play here. So here we finally get through to Ekans, and we're able to sit here and just spam our Leech Life. Of course, Poison Sting will just knock us out even from good health though. So it ultimately took 33 attempts to get through Youngster Shorty, though we did eventually manage to beat him. Still not super consistent, but we can move on. And with Youngster going down, the last is significantly easier given the fact that we have a super effective move there, and we can progress in the game. And now that we're 5 levels higher than the last time that we tried Brock, I want to go back and just see, can we actually beat him at this point at level 11? So at this point, our Leech Life is doing 5 damage to the Geodude, so we're actually going to do significantly more damage here, and that should at least in theory give us a chance to get through this one. And just like that, we do manage to get through Geodude. Now I'm going to sit here and spam the Stun Spore on his Onix. Number 1, because it guarantees that I'll be faster than him, and number 2, because of the fact that once we get 6 to land, it will stick and he will remain paralyzed. And of course, when he uses Bide, we're simply going to spam Stun Spore until he unleashes energy. So he does take us down on that attempt, but I do think there's some hope here. So that fight wasn't quite going, so I'm going to come here into Mount Moon. Now, the reason I wanted to try to fight Brock at that level is because of this specific rocket right here. He is actually the bane of grass types, because while you wouldn't think it, this Zubat does tons of damage with Leech Life. And our Leech Life, even though it says it's super effective, is only neutrally effective here. So we're kind of hoping to get Supersonic and have it miss and not knock ourselves out, because if it just uses Leech Life every turn, we lose very easily there. So it turns out that even when we fight this trainer a bunch of times, we're simply not able to get through with our Parasect, because either we get too many Tail Whips and too much damage from the Rattata, or Leech Life does tons of damage. So that seems like this run is basically over, right? Well, not exactly, because technically there's nothing from stopping us from setting up Brock through walls again. We could simply use an escape rope or something to get our way back to Pewter City, and we could simply walk through walls to move on to a trainer that's actually easier for us to take on. And I have a couple ideas in mind. One is simply to make our way over here towards Cerulean City, but then just enter Mount Moon from the other side, where we can pick up the Dome Fossil, and then I think we can still fight this Super Nerd. And here in this spot, we are going to just have a super effective move with Leech Life against the Grimer. So we knock that one out, and we knock out the Voltorb. Now I think we want to paralyze the Coughing and go into our Leech Life, and we're just really hoping not to get hit by Smog. And just like that, on the first attempt, we knock that trainer out, and we get to level 13. And now at a higher level, let's see if we can now beat this trainer right here, given that we went from level 11 up to level 13. So for starters, we are now at the same level as this Rattata, and it's a 4-hit KO. We got a critical hit, so we were able to knock it out even faster. And now we seem to be doing a lot more damage with our Scratch against Zubat, so we just need it to be fully paralyzed, I think, in order to get this to go. And it's still close. It took 4 attempts, but we do manage to get through that rocket that time, and we're all the way up to level 13, going on level 14, and I'm going to backtrack once and try Brock again. Of course, we could keep going in the game, and we could try to fight against Misty. She would actually make a lot of sense here, since she's not going to use her strong water type moves against us, and Leech Life is super effective on the Starmie. But I think it's worth at least trying to fight Brock just to get that badge boost and attack. Now coming back to Brock at level 13 is really significant because level 13 is a damage rounding threshold. In theory, we're going to do a little bit more damage here, but let's see what it turns out to be in practice. So here, Leech Life against the Geodude is still doing 5 damage per hit. There's no change there. We just have a little more HP. This is a spot where we do kind of want him to use the move Tackle so that he doesn't raise his defense and we can get through him with fewer Leech Lives. That being said, we do manage to get through. We level up to level 14, goes Bide with Onyx, which is perfectly fine with us. We're just going to use this as an opportunity to basically set everything up with our Stun Spores and just make sure that he's fully paralyzed. And now our Leech Life is doing 3 damage per hit here. And anytime that he's fully paralyzed, even if he used Bide, that will just break Bide, so we can start attacking him again normally. And we get him down to about half health with our Leech Lives. Now we just need to get the luck for him not to hit us enough turns to allow us to knock him out with Scratch, but we're still on good green health here. Now, of course, Scratch is doing only 1 damage per hit, so it's not going to be a fast way to take him down, and it's going to take an awful lot of turns, so we're hoping not to see Tackle. So we just barely missed getting through that time, but maybe with a better range on the Geodude, we can get this to go. And here we've got him down to 3 HP as he uses Bide, and we just need 1 more hit, and just like that. Was it fast? No. Was it good? No. But we do manage to beat Brock on minimum battles, technically, though we had to get up to some shenanigans. We had to use the Brock through walls glitch in order to go to the end of Mount Moon and go backwards through the 2 required trainers in there. That being said, it does work out. You didn't even have to go to Misty in order to beat Brock with a Parasect. So if we came back and did this one again, the routing would be that we would definitely fight the Bugcatcher in Viridian Forest as we did, but then I think we would route slightly differently. We would use the Brock through walls glitch to fight the last Bugcatcher before we go into Mount Moon first, and then the last, because keep in mind the last only has a Nidoran male. So we get a super effective move against it. It doesn't know Poison Sting. And then we'd go back and fight the first Bugcatcher and then fight Youngster Shorty and then route all the way around to fight the Super Nerd and then fight the Rocket and then come back to Brock. It's still not going to be consistent. I mean, we took 80 resets in that section, but that does seem to be the way to go. And of course, with that being done, we can go straight to Misty now because we've fought all the required trainers before her, and I think she's going to be easier than fighting rival number 2. And it's worth keeping in mind, this is the worst possible Parasect here, so when I say that we just barely get through at that point, you got to keep in mind that if we had a stronger Parasect, we'd probably get better ranges. Now, I forgot about this Goldeen trainer, and Peck is 4 times super effective here, so even though it's not a same type move, it is really, really strong against us. So we definitely have to paralyze this Pokemon, and we're going to have to get a little bit of luck between it using Supersonic and Tail Whip. And here we do manage to get through finally, and that's going to get us to level 15 right there, which is another damage rounding threshold. But we're going to take on Misty before we go back to the rival. Let's just get as much XP as we possibly can. So Misty attempt number 1, I think I'm going to Stun Spore both of her Pokemon, and then let's just go ahead and give them some Leech Life so that we can get as much of our HP back as possible, since they're just going to spam Tackle against us. And just like that, Staryu does go down, Starmie's out next, we paralyze it with Stun Spore, and now our super effective Leech Life is doing very good damage here. Looks to be about a 10 to 11 damage per hit. And she X defends there, but it was too little too late, and we beat Misty on the first attempt as we get to level 16. So we're not doing great in this run. Obviously, we've had a ton of resets because we're just taking a ton of inconsistent battles. I do think there's some ways we could make it more consistent, but really there's not like a silver bullet like Ice Beam for Tauros that will get us through rival number 2. I think we just have to gain the levels. So 110 resets so far, but we are through 2 gyms, technically on minimum battles. We haven't run ahead to get ourselves a TM. I think we're doing pretty good. So with that, it's time to come back to rival 2 and see if we can finally make our way through this one now that we're 2 levels higher. So I think the strategy still revolves around getting this first Pidgeotto paralyzed. And of course, we don't really like the sand attacks, but we do like the badge boost that we're getting, and we do get through on the first attempt and get to Abra. So here I'm just going to use Leech Life, and it's a one-hit KO, and now I'm just going to kind of go hard on Scratch, given the fact that we don't have a lot of HP left. Unfortunately, Rattata takes us down. Let's try this one again. So on the next attempt, we're through the Pidgeotto with only one sand attack. Yet again, we can just one-shot there against that Abra. I'm going to paralyze the Rattata this time, and Hyper Fang gets a critical hit to knock us out. So this time we make our first attempt at Charmander. It immediately goes for Ember, but keep in mind, this Charmander on Rival 2 does not have Smart AI, so he doesn't know that he's supposed to do that. Now, one thing to try here is actually the Bide TM. Just because we're taking so much damage from that Pidgeotto, we might be able to knock it out with Bide strats here. And just like that, we are able to get to the Charmander. It goes Leer turn 1. Then it's fully paralyzed. Finally, it uses Ember and it knocks us out. But if we had just gotten one more turn, we would have managed to win this fight. Back to Charmander again on really good health. Uses Leer, then growls, so we finally get through. It took 28 attempts to get through that fight, but we level up to level 18, and we are moving on minimum battles. It's taken an hour and 23 minutes, so this Pokemon's definitely not top tier. It's like slower just to get through the second rival than it took for us to beat the entire game with like Snorlax or Chansey, but still, it's making progress thanks to the Brock skip and some shenanigans. And fortunately, in this next section, we don't really have anything to worry about because we're going to outlevel all of our opponents, and against all the poison types, we have access to Leech Life. So really, we're just worried about like Sand Attack from the Pidgey, but outside of that, we should be doing pretty darn well here. And as we come to the Oddish last, of course, we've got a 4-time super effective move against the Oddish, so we just need to land a couple scratches on Pidgey. Fortunately, it missed all of its sand attacks, and we easily get through that, and we've made it to Billy Boy's house. Once again, we're not really going to question what Billy Boy's been doing in his mother's closet here, because, you know, we don't really have much to talk about when we've been glitching through walls and things like that. But now it's time to make our way south to Vermilion City, where, of course, we've got a couple really tough trainers to deal with. We have to, first and foremost, get through rival number 3, but there is a trainer that has a Spearow on the way as well that could be a little scary. First things first, though, we're going to take down the Innocent Bystander. I think the best strategy is just to sit here and spam Scratch on the Machop. It gets us on really low health. Fortunately, Drowsy goes for Disable and disables Bide, and Confusion is not enough to knock us out, so we take it out into Leech Lives. And this is where I'm going to learn the move Dig. I think Dig is actually really useful here, and I'm going to learn it over Bide. I think this is our best way to go. Dig will give us a super effective move to use against rival number 3's Charmeleon, and that's the Pokemon that I'm really worried about right now. I think if we get to the Kadabra, we'll be able to heal up a lot of HP off of it though, since we are going to have a super effective physical move, and it's not like it's just going to use Confusion against us, it's going to randomize. But we have to get there first, and that could be a challenge. But this is one where the guy next to Pidgey Girl might be a problem with his Spearow. Let's find out. And we get knocked out on the first attempt, but let's try again. Now, the good news is that he's not smart enough to just use Peck. He will use Fury Attack there, but still, we need a fair bit of luck on this Raticate to get through. Fortunately, we've managed to get it after a few attempts, but still, that was not a very consistent fight. And of course, we would love to get Body Slam, but Body Slam is not available on a minimum battles run because it's locked behind an optional trainer. That being said, if we ever came back and optimized this one, I think Body Slam would be a natural play here, just because I think that would be the only way to get a really big advantage on this rival. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the rival 3 fight. Let's see if this is even possible to win at our current level. So we are at a higher level than his Pokemon at this point. The problem is that we have to lead off against Pidgeotto, and this is always going to be a tough Pokemon to deal with. Raticate's out second. I am going to use some Leech Life here because I think we need to recover health, but we get knocked out on the first attempt. Still, I think this is going to come down to move choice and a little bit of luck, but I do think we can manage to get through this with the right setup. So we finally get to Kadabra for the first time. It uses Teleport and Disable. The issue is just that we're not able to land any hits, and it's not quite a one-hit KO with our Leech Life. We do get through though, out to Charmeleon, and it knocks us out with a single Ember. I'm not sure if from full health we will survive or not. We have a couple rare candies in the bag. We can get to level 25 here, but let's just test this out a little bit more. Back to Kadabra again, we heal up a lot of health here. So this time I'm just going to go for Dig. We do survive the Ember, but we get burned. But without the burn, we definitely would have knocked this Pokemon out. So this is just a matter of getting to the final Charmeleon with decent health and then getting the Dig off. Keep in mind that burn is only a 10% chance. So this time we're back to Charmeleon on full health. He misses the Ember with a Gen 1 miss, so we knock him out in a single hit. But the whole point is just that we needed to not miss the Ember. We did have one accuracy drop from a sand attack, but that is a winnable fight. Funny enough, you'd think a 4 times weakness to fire would make this completely impossible, but keep in mind, the rival isn't going to have a really strong fire move for a very long time. That's one of the issues with Pokemon Red and Blue. Like Rival 4, Rival 5, they're going to be dealing with like Ember as their strongest fire type move, and I think maybe Fire Spin, but decent chances to miss and decent chances to not deal a lot of damage. And if we can get to the point of learning growth, we should get really strong in this. So now it's time to take on Lieutenant Surge. We figured out his trash can puzzle on the first attempt with Spore God, and we know Dig, so I think this is going to go alright, but let's find out. So obviously he's going to outspeed us with all of his Pokemon, but I don't think we even mess around with the Stun Spores. I think we just go Dig the whole way. We level up to level 24. He growls at us, but we still one-shot the Pikachu. He X-speeds, and that allows us to Dig once. He growls, we Dig again. Easy victory on Lieutenant Surge. That was never in question. And just like that, we have 3 gym badges. We had to use a TM, we had to use a broken TM, 146 resets to get to this point, and an hour and a half to beat 3 gyms. Really not great. Spore God, he isn't looking very good. But I do have an idea of how this Pokemon could be much better. As many of you have requested for Halloween, we might just have to come back and do a type change with this Parasect. And I think if we do, we might become completely overpowered. For now though, we'll take on the Wrapping Lass, where we have super effective moves against all of our Pokemon, so these are all going to go down just insanely easy with our Leech Life. And with no difficulty, we get to the Rock Tunnel Hiker. Let's just see how this fight goes. He is the midpoint in a minimum battles run, and we know Dig, so we Dig and dodge the first self-destruct. We level up to level 27 and one-shot the second Geodude, and then we Dig and dodge Graveler. So just like that, we easily get through him with no damage taken. And now it's time to just make our way out of here. There's one last trainer to fight, and then we're on to Celadon City. And after getting a Fly HM and of course getting a Freshwater, I think the best strategy here is going to be to go ahead and just try to take on Erica. I mean, we've got 4 times super effective moves against 2 of her Pokemon, plus we're not really going to be scared of any grass type moves, so I think she might know Acid on some of her Pokemon. That could be our actual issue. That being said, we're only 2 levels away from learning Spore, which is by far and away the most broken move in the entire game. So if we can't beat her right away, then we might just need to go get access to that move, and then we can go ahead and just get an easy victory. And there are plenty of trainers that we can fight, because we can go down into the Rocket Game Corner. I just want to try this one time just to see if it works. So here, Erica attempt number 1, she goes for Poison Powder, and that's going to allow us to simply set up the Leech Life and get through that first Pokemon. We're not too worried about Tangela. Of course, it can use something like Bind on us. Constrict doesn't really matter because we're already super slow, and this is looking like a 4-hit KO before she uses the Super Potion. Granted, Bind plus being slower is kind of bad when we're also poisoned, so we might have wanted to use at least a Stun Spore there. Let's try this one again. So this time we paralyze Weepinbell. It's still going to go for its Poison Powder on us, but that's fine. Here we slow down this Tangela, so at least if it goes Bind, we're going to be able to outspeed. So we do take that Pokemon down this time. Out comes the final Vileplume. It goes for Mega Drain, which isn't going to do anything to us. So we're just going to sit here and spam away with our Leech Life. and we get the easy victory there after just a couple of attempts. And with Erica going down, we get access to Mega Drain. That could in theory be a good move, we'll just have to see. But for now, we are moving on. Now I don't think we need to learn Mega Drain, at least not immediately, so I'm just going to hold off on learning that for now and come into the Rocket Hideout with my current moveset. And here at level 30, I'm going to learn Spore over Stun Spore. I think this is the best play, since it is by far and away our strongest move. And after taking out all the rockets, we've made our way to Giovanni number 1, and here I think we can basically rely on Spore in a move like Dig. Here we're going to outspeed the Rhyhorn, so we can effectively just keep this Pokemon from ever doing anything. Gen 1 Sleep is so insanely broken because of the fact that if he does wake up, we're simply just going to put him back to sleep and just spam more and more attacks on him. Of course there, when he wakes up, we can just knock him out. We get Bite from Kangaskhan, which did a lot of damage as a critical hit, but I'm just going to heal up some health off of this one, and we'll just try to put it back to sleep when it wakes up, and now just spam the scratches to knock this one out. The problem is he hits a lot of Comet Punches, so we actually lost that first attempt. So I'm just going to recover some PP and Dig, and I think this is going to be more than enough. Back to Kangaskhan, he guard specs turn 1, so we're just going to put him to sleep and then start digging. And he goes for Rage there, and Rage isn't going to cut it. We easily win on the second attempt and get to level 32. So with that being done, we have no choice but to go and fight rival number 3. This is actually a fight that I'm really nervous about because of the fact that we're not going to have a great move for like Gyarados here. We're gonna just have to hope to put things to sleep and get through them. So first things first, on the Pidgeotto, we put it to sleep. We're just going into Scratch. We still get a Sand Attack, which is not ideal, but we knock that Pokemon out. Out comes the Execute. We do not quite get the one-hitter with the Leech Life, but we do two-shot it. Gyarados is out next. I'm putting this Pokemon to sleep no matter what. The fact that it's a flying type obviously means that none of our other moves are really going to be good here, and he does know Dragon Rage. That being said, we do get through that one. Out comes the Kadabra. We manage to one-hit KO it. Charmeleon goes Ember again. We put it to sleep, and now we're just gonna go digging, and there we go. Easy one-hit KO, and we get to level 33. So with that being done, now we can just start making our way through this section of the game where we've got Dig for all the Ghastlies, so I'm not too worried about them. We might have 1 or 2 resets if we get bad luck, but really these should be pretty easy fights. I will avoid using things like the Paralysis Dig glitch in this one if I can help it, just because obviously that's a little bit cheesy, but keep in mind that could also be a way that we win one of these fights. So now to Ghosty Mama, we're simply going to put her to sleep and start digging holes. Somehow we're just, digging holes in the graveyard and nobody's complaining about it. We easily get through. Now we've just got 3 rockets to take care of and we can be done with this section. And now that we've saved Mr. Fuji, I think it's time to go quickly to Silph Co, where we can get access to the TM3 for Swords Dance. Swords Dance might be the move that just breaks this run open, because at that point we're going to be able to just boost up our attack stat so much, and we might just be able to crush every opponent with physical moves. So we need to decide what move to forget for Swords Dance, and for now I'm going to forget Scratch. Keep in mind we could get a lot of other stronger normal type moves if we actually need them, but for now I think Leech Life is still going to be useful against Koga. I mean, granted we could just go dig strats on Koga too, but it's going to help in Koga's gym with all the psychic types. And obviously Dig is a super strong move that we don't want to forget at this point in the game, especially as we set up our Swords Dances. But now I'm going to leave this section and I'm instead going to make my way down to Fuchsia City. So first things first, let's take on the trainers in Koga's gym, where we should get some easy levels here. We're still slower than like this Drowsy, but we can put it to sleep and now start setting up our Swords Dances. Keep in mind Koga will also give us a badge boost in speed, which will help an awful lot. But at this point, with +6 attack, our Leech Life is basically going to one-shot all of these psychic types. So basically we get through on full health this whole section, and it's time to try Koga for the first time. So first attempt against Koga, I get Smog turn 1 from the Coughing. That is definitely not what we wanted to see. We are slower than this Pokemon, which is kind of nerve-wracking. But now that we've set up all of our Swords Dances, I'm going to go into the Leech Life. I want to simply recover HP. He goes for Sludge with Muck though, and that's all she wrote for the first one. So this time he X attacks on Muck, allowing us to use Dig and one-shot him. He X attacks on the second Coughing, allowing us to one-shot it. We get Smog from the Wheezing, but Dig is a one-hit KO, so it took a few attempts, but we were able to beat Koga in spite of his smart AI and his 4x super effective moves. 2 hours, 5 minutes to get through this section. We're up to 156 resets. Still not doing too bad though. And with that, we do get a badge boost in speed, which is kind of huge because the difference between outspeeding opponents and not outspeeding opponents is huge in these Pokemon runs. When you add on the fact that we're going to be able to use the fact that we can put opponents to sleep with Spore, we're going to have decent odds of getting through a lot of fights here by simply getting our setup off. Still, we're going to have to really manage our level ups in some of these tougher fights because we're going to be relying on badge boosts pretty hard. And now, of course, in order to get to Blaine, we have to have a Surf Pokemon. Fortunately, we can simply grab the Eevee here in Celadon City, and once we evolve it into a Vaporeon, it can serve as our Surf user. Now, of course, I know we can get a Lapras for free as well, but I'm not sure if we're actually going to be able to beat the rival number 5 fight or not at this point. I'd rather get a special badge boost from Blaine. Now, we can also pick up a couple rare candies and the Solar Beam TM in this Pokemon Mansion, and just like it, we can dig out and make our way to Blaney Boy, but if he doesn't work out, we'll at least have another strong move that we could add to our arsenal. So with that, it's time for Tombstoner's Brothers. Let's make our way to Blaney Boy himself. So Blaine attempt number 1, I'm simply going to put his Growlithe to sleep and start setting up my Swords Dances. And now we can go for our Dig and get the easy one-hit KO. We get Fire Spun here by the Ponyta though, and there's nothing that we can do. We're just not quite fast enough to be able to get through this. So now that we know that that is the case, there's only 2 options to do. We gotta either try rival number 5, or we've got to start using rare candies. I'm actually going to try rival 5 once, and I think Leech Life has outlived its usefulness. We probably want to replace it with another physical move. Now, fortunately, after selling all the items that we can pick up in this section, it's pretty easy to get our hands on enough coins to get access to the Hyper Beam TM. And since we've got Swords Dance to go with Hyper Beam, I think this move's an excellent one to replace our Leech Life with. We should be able to get through fights pretty darn easily with this. That is, of course, assuming we don't get knocked out first. But here I'm simply going to add this TM on right over Leech Life, and let's see if this enables us to get through rival number 5. So of course the rival's going to lead off with his Pidgeot, which is going to use Wing Attack against us 100% of the time. There's really nothing that we can do right there. And 2 Wing Attacks is enough to knock us out from full health. Once we get this set up though, Hyper Beam is a one-hit KO there. I'm going to stick with Hyper Beam on Execute, Hyper Beam on Gyarados. Out comes the Alakazam. I think it deserves another Hyper Beam, but we got confused and knocked ourselves out. This time we do knock out the Alakazam and we make it to Charizard, where its only fire type move is Ember. So if we don't survive, we're going down at that point no matter what we do. So this is a point where I think we have no choice other than to use some rare candies. So I'm going to get to level 40 and just see what that does to the ranges. And since we're adding rare candies, I think we come back and try Blaine first. And of course, we're still too slow here to really do anything. And it didn't really do anything for our ranges against Charizard either, so I think we've got to go harder on rare candies here if we're going to have any shot of continuing. Now, I'm a little more amenable to using rare candies in this section due to the fact that once we get to level 48 and learn Spore, I'm planning to go for a double badge boosting strat. So now at this level, we can actually badge boost to outspeed Growlithe. We're still going to be slower than Ponyta no matter what we do, but it misses a Fire Spin. Out comes Rapidash. It goes for Fire Spin, of course, and there's not much we can do there. We're kind of hoping for him to use like a full health Super Potion or something like that. So this one, he does use a full health Super Potion turn 1 on the Growlithe, and keep in mind that's something that Blaine does in Pokemon Red and Blue. So we can simply dig that one down. Still nothing that we can do against Ponyta with its Fire Spin though. The only thing we can really hope for is Fire Spin to miss because it's not a perfectly accurate move, or yet again, those full health Super Potions are always nice in this situation. This time we get a Fire Spin miss from Rapidash, so we do one-shot it, and then Arcanine hits its Fire Blast. So yet again, we could get a Fire Blast miss here, and that would be the way to get through this, or the Full Health Super Potion. This time he Full Health Super Potions the Arcanine, we dig, and it is a one-hit KO. So just like that, it was not good, but we did manage to get through Blaine in 2 hours and 30 minutes. We've got a score of 69 right now because we've had 180 resets, 3 TMs, a broken TM. I also think we should dock this Pokemon for using Brock through walls, so it's technically worse than that. Really not great, but we have managed to get through 6 gyms. And that of course means we have a badge boost now in special. So if we can manage to get to the Charizard without leveling up, we can actually make our special stat higher by using our Swords Dance that might allow us to survive the Ember. So let's try Rival 5 again. And here, coming in with slightly better health against the final Charizard, we do survive, and we get the one-hit KO as we get to level 46. So the badge boosts did have an impact there. Without the badge boost, we are getting knocked out right there at that point, but thanks to the badge boost, we can just barely survive and make our way through to this next couple battles, and then we can get another rare candy in here and make our way to Sabrina. So after picking up Lapras, we're just gonna fight the one required rocket here and make our way to Giovanni number 2. So here Giovanni leads off with Nidorino. We're just gonna put it to sleep with Spore, and now we're gonna set up our Swords Dances, and then we're just set to sweep. So dig one-shots Nidorino. Against Kangaskhan, we get a bite, but we're just gonna dig and get an easy one-hitter. Dig on the Rhyhorn is good enough, and Nidoqueen goes for Poison Sting. It doesn't matter, we get an easy KO there, and as we get to level 47. One more level and we get access to Growth, which is going to be a really good move for us. That's the point where we can basically go double badge boosts with like one attacking move. So first things first, let's make our way through Sabrina. I think this one won't be too bad. So first attempt against Sabrina here, we're just going to Spore on her Kadabra, set up some Swords Dance, and then we're just going to be ready to sweep. So here we dig, and dig is an easy one-hit KO. We're just going to stick with the same strategy on Mr. Mime, go for more of the same on the Venomoth, easy one-hitter there, and Alakazam comes out. It goes Psybeam, but that does not matter. We get the one-hit KO victory there. In 2 hours 37 minutes, we have made it through Sabrina. So we're picking up the pace just a little bit now that we've gotten these moves, and we're very close to our level up. So here we level up and we do get to learn Growth. We have to decide what move we want to keep. And we have to kind of look ahead and think about what our moveset is going to be and how we actually want to attack our opponents. For now, I'm going to forget the move Dig. This might be a mistake, but keep in mind there are lots of flying types still to come that we're not going to be able to use Dig against, which is why I'm going to forget it now, even though it would be a really good move against Agatha. But now we need to learn a move that's actually going to be decent against some opponents, and this is where I'm going to learn Solar Beam. I'm going to replace Hyper Beam with Solar Beam since Solar Beam number 1 has more PP. It's going to get us through a lot of opponents much easier, but I also think it's technically our strongest same type move. Once we boost it up with Growth and then stack the Swords Dances on top of that, we should be just one-shotting opponents. So Giovanni attempt number 1, we're just going to Spore on his Rhyhorn. And now I'm going to set up Growth 6 times here. Since Rhyhorn is slower, it literally can't do anything to stop this strategy. And now I'm even going to go further by setting up the 3 Swords Dances on top of this. And you can see that we get up to 133 speed, and our special is just massive, 588. So now we can go Solar Beam, and that's going to be a one-hit KO right there. We're going to Spore on the Dugtrio, which we are outspeeding, and we get an easy one-hitter there. Nidoqueen comes out, we just put it to sleep, take in Sunlight, get the one-hitter. We level up right here, so we're actually going to be slower than Nidoking. Fortunately, it just used Poison Sting against us, so we get a one-hit KO there. And against the Rhydon, he uses Tail Whip, good job. We put him to sleep, and then the Solar Beam gets the one-hit KO. So just like that, Giovanni, he's basically a joke at this point. We completely destroy him. 2 hours, 40 minutes, 44 seconds. He only took one attempt. Yes, we had to shuffle around our TMs a little bit, but we are making progress now with our Parasect. So now the question is, will this strategy work on rival number 6, or are we going to have to shuffle our moveset yet again, forgetting Solar Beam for something else? So first things first, against the rival, he's just going to go wing attack with his Pidgeot, of course. I am going to start setting up growth like crazy. Now, we are going to have to get a lot of growths off to outspeed this Pidgeot. That being said, technically, if we get them all set up, we should be outspeeding here. And sure enough, after setting up 6 of those growths, we are outspeeding this Pidgeot. I'm just going to one-shot it with a Solar Beam. We level up right there. So now this is where I'm going to put Rhyhorn to sleep and set up the 3 Swords Dances as well. And I'm actually kind of hoping that it will use Tail Whip on me. Now, we don't get it in that attempt, but I think if we can get the Tail Whips from it, we'll be able to get more badge boosts and eventually knock our opponents out that way. Now, there's technically another strategy where you just set up 2 growths here on the Pidgeot and then use your Solar Beams to knock it out while it stays asleep. And then you can come to this Rhyhorn, put it to sleep, and just start setting up all the growth here, since we're guaranteed to outspeed this Pokemon even without badge boosts. And once we get 3 growth set up, we'll also set up 3 Swords Dances, so we're nice and fast. And now we should be able to just mostly put opponents to sleep and knock them out with Solar Beam. So we don't quite get the 1-hitter on the Gyarados here, but it's a 2-hitter, so that's perfectly fine. Alakazam is faster, but we've got a really high special stat right now, so we're able to knock that one out. And then Charizard is also faster, and its Flamethrower knocked us out right there. We're just 1 badge boost short of being faster than that Charizard though, so it might be possible to get through the first Pidgeot by simply setting up 1 growth. I'm going to try that strategy out because it might not take any more luck than what we just did. So with only 1 growth on, we're doing just about 50% damage to this Pidgeot, so with the right range, we do in fact knock it out in 2 hits. So now when we level up, we have more growths to set up. We only set up 1 on the Pidgeot, and this is going to allow us to get an additional badge boost here. So now instead of 115 speed, we get all the way up to 129 speed here. And now I think we just outspeed everything. Alakazam is still faster though, and it gets a critical hit to one-shot us with Psychic. Of course, critical hits ignore all of your badge boosts and really any stat buffs whatsoever, so we're just gonna have to manage to get around that sort of luck. No critical hit from Alakazam. This time he goes Reflect, but that shouldn't really matter. We put him back to sleep, and we're just going to use Solar Beam to knock that one out. And now, since we're faster than Charizard, we're just going to use Spore. And now let's see what Solar Beam does. It does well over half. And now he wakes up, but it doesn't matter. We get the victory against the rival, and we get to level 51. Now, we have access to a couple more rare candies here because we still have to get one from the Warden's house. We have one on Victory Road, and we have one over in the power plant. We're going to have to use those very strategically, though, in this section of the game, since obviously we need to manage our XP well enough that we can always be able to use our badge boosting strats. And I think our current moveset is going to be perfectly fine for both Lorelei and Bruno. The real question is, how are we going to do against Lance and Agatha, and then of course the champion? Agatha could be a spot where we really want to use a move like Mimic in order to try to get through. I'm going to try with my moveset as is though. We have some PP ups in the bag, so we can get more PP on Solar Beam. It's just a question of whether or not it's going to be enough. Keeping in mind, the Golbat is going to 4 times resist Solar Beam, even after we get all our setup off. But the Golbat there is the reason why we couldn't just keep a move like Dig. Even if we had gotten past rival number 6, we would have had to forget Dig at some point if we were going double badge boost plus Spore, because we just wouldn't have a way to hit that flying type Pokemon. So I am going to buy a Pokédoll and get access to Mimic just in case I need it. I'm really hopeful that I don't have to go Mimic strats though. And with that out of the way, it's time to just make our way to the league. Do we just get one shot by Dugong's Aurora Beam here? I really don't know. Let's test it out. So Lorelei attempt number 1, We survive the Aurora Beam. That's very nice to see. Now I'm going to start setting up growth because obviously that is the move that we need. We need a few more growths to outspeed this Dugong. After we get 5 growths set up though, we are faster than the Dugong. I'm not sure where exactly I'm going to level up in this fight, so for this first attempt I'm going to set up everything right here. And now with Dugong asleep, we're going to get an easy one-hitter there. We're going to Spore on Cloyster and get an easy one-hit KO on that one. Spore on the Slowbro, and we one-hit it. Out comes the Jinx, and we are still faster than this Pokemon, so we put it to sleep, and we're going Solar Beam. The problem is we're going to level up right here as we go into Lapras. And we are slower than the Lapras, so it's always going to get a chance at the Blizzard on us. And as long as it hits, it's going to just KO us from there. So this is a spot to at least try a rare candy and see if it stops us from getting that level up. So it takes a couple attempts to get back here, but one rare candy was enough that we didn't level up on Lapras. So now we can put it to sleep, and Solar Beam makes it an easy one-hit KO as we get to level 53. Lorelei has gone down. And we still have 3 rare candies in the bag. So we still have some flexibility here to use them before 3 more opponents. I don't think we're going to need them before we take on Bruno, but let's find out. So Bruno attempt number 1, he misses a rock throw turn 1. Good job, Bruno. Here we're just going to set up a whole bunch of growth. Harden obviously doesn't matter against us because of our strategy. And now we can easily one-shot the Onix. Here we are faster than Hitmonchan, so we're just going to keep it asleep. I'm actually going to set up Swords Dance once here just because I want to make sure I outspeed the Hitmonlee as well. But we easily knock that one out. Hitmonlee comes out, it can go to sleep as well. The Solar Beam is a one-hit KO. Another Onix. Another easy victory. And finally, we've got his Machamp. We did not level up before this Pokemon, so we can simply go for the Solar Beam and get the one-hitter as we get to level 54. We easily lost. You know, how could you lose to a super slow Pokemon like this? Who knows? But he didn't even deal any damage. So just like that, we have made it to Agatha. Let's see if we can beat the Ghost-type Elite Four member. Now obviously she really loves her Dream Eater strats here, but we're kind of hoping that she just misses some hypnosises and lets us get our setup off. So after all of our setup, we are faster here and we knock out the Gengar. I meant to go Spore here, I just misclicked and we got a KO from the wing attack, but I think we can win this fight. So here with proper play, we put Golbat to sleep. We're going to go Solar Beam on it. It's going to be a 2-hit KO here. She Super Potions, that does not matter. Now we can put the Haunter to sleep. She swaps to Arbok, so we'll put Arbok to sleep. Yet again, we're just going for a Solar Beam. That's an easy 1-hit KO. Solar Beam on the Haunter also will get the KO. We level up right here against the Gengar, and we get confused and knock ourselves out in confusion. So we probably can avoid that level up just by using a single rare candy here. So that's going to be my strategy, I think. So now at level 55, we get back to this Gengar. We are faster and we did not level up thanks to the rare candy, and it's a 1-hit KO with Solar Beam. Even though it's a resisted move, because it's the same type and because we have so many growths, plus 3 badge boosts from Swords Dance stacked on top of that, we're just completely overpowered here, and we completely destroy Agatha. The double badge boost glitch is easily the most broken thing you can do in the Pokemon games. But with that, we are now ready to take on Lance. We've still got 2 rare candies in the bag, so if we need to manipulate our XP at all in this battle, we can. I'm not sure if we're going to need to or not, but let's find out. So Lancey Boy attempt number 1, he goes Hyper Beam right off the bat, and a critical hit one-shots us. We need better range than that. We can get a Leer from this Gyarados, which is probably the ideal. So this time in the second attempt, we do get a Leer, and now I can start setting up my growth. We get a second Leer even, so now we're even able to get faster than the Gyarados. And once we're faster, we're basically guaranteed that this Pokemon can't do anything to us. I'm going to set up the Swords Dances on top though. I'm just going for all the badge boosts right off the bat. So we have 200 speed, are you kidding me? Now I'm going to go Solar Beam. We get the one hit KO right there. We're going to Spore on the Dragonair. As long as it stays asleep, we can just Solar Beam the next turn. We just really don't want critical hits here. Here, the second Dragonair, we put it to sleep. Solar Beam doesn't get the one shot because it was a crit, but we knock it out the next turn. We are faster than Aerodactyl as we put it to sleep. And here goes the Solar Beam, one hitter, and we just barely avoid by 21 XP leveling up on the Dragonite here. So we can go ahead and go Spore, Solar Beam, and this is not going to be a one-hit KO, but we've got a decent shot here. He goes for the Hyper Potion. We're just going to put him back to sleep, and we just have to get the right ranges here, but we have 3 Solar Beams, so it's more than enough. We knock him out, we get to level 57, and we are on to the champion with the double badge boost glitch strategy. So I'm just going to stick with my moveset as it is. We have 2 rare candies in the bag. We have come through these trainers with full health, which is very fortunate because I accidentally came in here with only 2 full restores. But now we can move on to the champion where if he just goes Sky Attack turn 1 with his Pidgeot, we're going to be able to put it to sleep, hopefully set up our badge boosts right there, and we might be able to just sweep through the team. Let's find out. So first turn against the Pidgeot, it goes for the Sky Attack. That's just what we wanted to see. Now we're going to have to get a lot of badge boosts here to outspeed. It has 125 speed, and obviously Sky Attack is just going to destroy us. So we need a really long sleep, and we need to get tons of badge boosts set up here. That being said, I'm just going to see what the range is if we just set up one of our growths. This is going to be a 3-hit KO from Solar Beam. Now, Sky Attack can miss 10% of the time, but that's clearly not going to be enough. We're going to have to go for 2 growths, I think, and then 2 Solar Beams to get through this one at least. So here we get 1 Solar Beam off, and he goes for Sky Attack, so we get to knock him out on the next turn. Out comes the Alakazam. It goes for Psy Beam. We're not too worried about that. I'm just trying to save some of my badge boosts because we're pretty clearly going to level up at some point in this fight. So here, let's put the Rhydon to sleep. This should be a very easy victory. We actually didn't keep it asleep, so we got hit, but that's still fine. We level up right here on Exeggutor, though. So now we can put Exeggutor to sleep, and this is where I'm going to finish all my setup. Fortunately, Exeggutor isn't that fast, so we can just keep putting it to sleep and keep resetting up our growth here. And with the growth setup finished, now I'm going to set up my Swords Dance, put this one back to sleep, and now we're going our Solar Beam, and it's going to be a 2-hitter on this Pokemon. We do take it down though. We're faster than Gyarados, so now Solar Beam one-shots. We've made it to Charizard. He misses a Fire Spin, but then he wakes up and he gets us in the Fire Spin, and there's nothing that we can do here. Fire Blast finishes us off, so we're not quite fast enough there against the Charizard. So the question in my mind is, if we use our rare candies, will we avoid leveling up before that Charizard? The other thing is that we definitely need more PP to just be safe in Solar Beam. So I'm going to save the game here before I use the rare candies, but I'm going to slap both of them on right here. That's going to get us to level 59. And let's just see if, you know, the 10,600 XP that we need is enough that we don't end up leveling up just before Charizard. And unfortunately, it looks like we level up right on the Charizard by using the rare candies. So the rare candies aren't really a solution here. We do survive the Fire Blast, but now what is the range with our Solar Beam? It's going to be a 3-hitter here to knock this one out. I'm going to put him back to sleep. He goes full restore though, and there's nothing we can do about that. So it's pretty clear we do not want to use rare candies here. That's just going to make our ranges worse. So instead, we might have to go for some Leer strats from that Gyarados. So this time I'm to Exeggutor, but I only used one growth against the very first Pidgeot just to get it in a 3-hit KO range. It's less consistent to get here, but it does mean that we're going to be able to set up more badge boosts, and that should help us against the final Charizard. And now we have 149 speed versus the 145 of Charizard, so we can put it to sleep. We're just hoping it stays asleep long enough for us to knock it out. It stayed asleep there, and with 2 hits from Solar Beam at level 58, we managed to beat the champion. So it's a very rare case where you actually don't want to drop your rare candies at the end in order to finish on minimum battles. Of course, you might be able to manage your XP a little bit better throughout the run, but honestly, I think everywhere we used rare candies were really logical spots. So this is one where if you're going to stay on minimum battles, you would simply have to kind of bite the bullet. Basically, against that Pidgeot, you go Spore, you go 1 growth, you try to get off a couple of Solar Beams there, and then you try to use Spore again to get it back to sleep so that you can set up the last Solar Beam. And with 1 growth on, you are survivable enough to get through that Alakazam. So just like that, we did beat the game, but it took 233 resets, 6 TMs, 1 broken TM, a Brock skip. I would at least knock 10 points off of this. I don't know, you guys still have to vote on what you think is the best scoring system for any time that we do Brock through walls or Brock skips. We didn't like skip Brock to go get a TM or anything. We did fight some trainers out of order, but once you manage to get past Rival 2, basically, this Pokemon's not that bad. It's really just the early game that completely destroys a Parasect, and then there are some inconsistent spots due to type weaknesses, but we did find ways to get through them. And so with that, Parasect does join the tier list. It was by far and away the slowest of these Pokemon. If we look at score, it's by far and away the worst scoring of these Pokemon. It was not great, but it does get through on minimum battles. So that's cool. But with that out of the way, it's time to just register this Pokemon in the Hall of Fame. And I want to talk about what we're going to do next time, because it's Halloween month, of course. And for Halloween, I like to do some Pokemon that should have gotten the ghost typing. And a lot of you have told me that this should be a ghost bug type Pokemon. I think that would be pretty cool. I will try a ghost bug type Parasect. We might have to deal with different physical moves at that point, because obviously our Solar Beam strat isn't going to be as good if we have a ghost type Pokemon at the end, but we are going to lose any 4x weaknesses, so that could help a lot. We'll also only be neutrally affected by poison, so that will be a pretty big improvement. But will this Pokemon beat the game on minimum battles? It has a decent chance. I mean, the hard part for normal Parasect is the early game, and a ghost type is gonna resist everything. It's not gonna be able to be damaged by anything. We're gonna be Brock on minimum battles there without any shenanigans, I think. But we're just gonna have to see if it actually works out by the end of the game. I have a couple other ghosts that are going to be coming in. Of course, we are going to have the ghost fire type that is Ninetales, and you guys can tell me any others that you think we should have. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Let's make one last trip to go and fight against Mewtwo, and you guys can just leave your predictions for next week's video in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And here we are standing right next to Mewtwo. Let's just see if we can beat him with our Spore God on the first attempt. We even had a full restore left over because we never had to use it against the Elite Four. Very nice. So Mewtwo attempt number 1. Obviously, I'm just going to go Spore first. We get a special drop, which is kind of bad. And we really need this Pokemon to use like Barrier or Recover. We're clearly not getting through otherwise. This time he does recover turn 1 though, so we're going to sit here and just spam our growth. He recovers again. That's very, very nice. And basically, I'm going to get my special stat as high as I possibly can while trying to keep this Pokemon asleep. And then it's time for the Solar Beam. He goes Swift, but 1 Solar Beam gets the 1-hit KO, and we get to level 59 just like that. Spore God has beaten the entire game of Pokemon Red and Blue on minimum battles. That is ridiculous. 133 attack, 115 defense, only 56 speed at the end, 115 special. Obviously, the badge boosts are calculated in on my stats on the left side, but yeah, double badge boost glitch plus Spore is kind of broken. Gen 1 being Gen 1, guys. Anyway, that does it for this one. Big thanks to the channel members, Super Saiyajin Derp, Super Saiyajin Jared Rose, all of the Pokemon Center tier folks, all of the Ride On meme team folks. Thank you. Appreciate you. See you in the next video, guys. Later.